O-line play, in my opinion, is maybe the most exciting martial art on the planet. That's how we kind of look at this. We want to train our guys as such. We want to give them the tools to win. And with that, we have a strike system that's helped us kind of expedite the program and really increase production and performance for players. So they're very clear on what they have to do.
On today's podcast, we have a segment of the Cool Clinic with Bill Callahan and Scott Peters from the Cleveland Browns. And what I was most impressed with in this presentation was the terminology and nomenclature that they came up with to communicate with their players efficiently and effectively. And as Scott points out, this is something that they drill all the time. So while it might seem a lot here in this podcast, this is just how they talk. This is the stuff that they work all the time. And he makes a point that maybe for your situation, you pare it back. But first, we're going to have Coach Callahan talking about pendulum strikes and how those work into their wide zone play. Then Scott's going to come in on the second half of this and talk about their strike and set system for pass protection, which he's coded with letters and numbers to really be efficient in how they communicate exactly what they need their players to do and the adjustments that they may see they need to make on game day. The video for this is very important, I think, to go through and take a look at. And you can get that at cool2022.coachesclinic.com. All the replays of the clinic are there and available. I'll also put a link to the Cool Clinic channel. Eventually, these will be up on CoachTube on the Cool Clinic channel, so you're going to want to check those out. So let's start with Coach Callahan here, talking about their wide zone technique.
I'm going to talk about some wide zone combinations, and it's going to be kind of a deep dive into just a few combinations. I'm not going to get into the totality of these combinations across the board. So I selected a few because I'm limited by time. And then the second part, Coach Peters will come up, and I think you guys will be really, really interested in his strike program in our pass protection system. I think you will really benefit from his knowledge and expertise. I'm really fortunate to have Scott as an assistant. I think he's one of the best assistants, if not the best, in the NFL. And I think it'll be just a very short time where he'll be the headline coach for somebody's organization. But anyhow, my topic today is I'm just going to do some half-man wide zone combinations. I'm going to take you through a little bit of the history about this. We are a wide zone gap game plan specific type run team. And in 2020, we were third in the NFL. And this year in 21, we were fourth in the NFL. And we started to really go back after the 20 season and examine all of our wide zone combinations. And it was interesting. We had too many misses on our backside. We were too quick on our play side. And we had too many misses, TFLs, and thinned out leverage points across the board. So we put this system together. It's called the Pendulum Strike system for the wide zone run game. And it really helped to improve our production in the 21 season. Even though we were fourth in the NFL, we led the league or tied for number one in the league with Indianapolis for average per carry at 5.1. And we had the most runs over 10 yards with 81. So I just want to make that point to you. So to show you how we managed to change and alter and modify some of our wide zone techniques. And then the production aspect kind of bared fruition through this last year. Okay, so let's start. All right, so in a nutshell, okay, let's check this out. And this is our topic. This is what we're doing. We're some half line combinations. And I do have to mention, I wanted to start this point out today that this past season, we had the fewest head impacts of any line, okay, or line unit in the NFL. This just came out this spring. In fact, last week, the medical committee released this information. So traditionally, there's a direct correlation between running the ball and head impacts. And we really pride ourselves on using hands in both phases of blocking to mitigate potential head injuries while optimizing player performance. So that's what we do. We really use hands here. And I would say this, that we didn't start out to lead the league in anything with about the fewest head impacts, but that's just how it turned out. So I really feel that this is a byproduct of our technique system where we do less head banging and we've had zero concussions. So we've really been fortunate in that respect. Okay, let's talk about wide zone combinations, okay? and this is no revelation to anybody, but there's just a little bit of a difference of what we're doing here that you may like or not like, whatever, or add to your blocking concept. But our half line blocking concept, our half man combination concept is based on playing long immediately, generating shoulder disruption and creating a fit for the post-up blocker and the trail blocker. So the objective is to establish vertical, horizontal movement, and ideally, we want to eliminate any penetration or pursuit by the down defender. We want to get rid of those minus yardage plays. So the post-up blocker is responsible for platforming the down defender and working to the backer, and the trail blocker is a blocker responsible for overtaking the down defender. That's what I'll be talking about here. All right. So we have these strikes that are called pendulum combinations. Okay. So we build our combinations to neutralize the charge of the down defender covering the post-up blocker. The down defender usually uses a buckboard technique. All right. And I'm going to get into that. I want to show you some defensive line techniques that show the buckboard. All right. And we want to defeat the buckboard by playing long and winning the first touch right at the snap of the ball. So we're going to attack and strike any down defender with a post-up blocker by creating disruption and separation. And why we do that is we're trying to fit in the trail blocker. We want him to get a clean fit on the overtake. So the post-up player's responsibility is to take as much pressure off of the trail blocker as possible. So in essence, a post-up blocker, he really has double duty on the line of scrimmage to the second level. So the combination technique that we're going to show you here is applicable to any blocker dealing with a half-man scenario. All right, so let's move forward. Okay, the post-up blocker, real quickly. All right, the footwork, okay, is brace, high leg pop. All right, so you guys have been to the clinic here for years, so you know what that means. The main thing is for the post-up blocker to remain square on the first two steps. And we're really trying to brace the inside foot or the outside foot based on what side he's on, front side or back side. We're getting to a high leg pop. We really don't want to cross over. It happens, but we're really trying to put it down, pick it up and put it down and advance it squarely. So really the key is to move in an explosive manner, but still, okay, remain the squareness in the base of the blocker. Okay, advancing the stagger is going to allow the post-up player to make contact on the near shoulder in a very square fashion. We don't want to turn. We don't want to bail. We don't want to vacate. I will show you examples of what we did in 2020 and why we made the change in 2021. All right, and the brace step, that first step, it really allows you to kind of open up your hip and create an angle of departure into the second level. Okay, the strike we use is a pendulum strike, and that's based, again, everything's going to be based on the alignment of the second level backer. I'll show you that. We'll either strike with one arm or two arm. The pendulum strike swings upward from the ground, okay, from the thigh board in the 2-point and from the ground in the 3-point, and it's aiming and targeting the near shoulder point of the down defender. The objective is to create square contact on the down defender, to soften the inside shoulder by creating disruption and separation. Okay, there's some good examples we can show you here. But at all times, the post-up blocker and the trail blocker, they've got to assess, and have knowledge of the location, depth, demeanor of the linebacker that they're working to. Here's the example. Okay, so let's just say this is the left guard and the left tackle working in a combination on the backside of a wide zone. The post-up blocker is the left guard, all right, and the trail blocker is the left tackle. And so they're working in conjunction, okay, for this will linebacker. So what we say is you need to assess the location of where the will linebacker is, if he's tough in the A gap, if he's plussed in the A gap, if he's stacked behind a 3, or if he's minus behind a 3. Okay, that's really important because that's going to tell the post-up blocker if he's got to trigger faster or slower. And when I mean slower, I'm saying that the post-up blocker is hanging, okay, before he departs to the second level. And this play, like I said, is going to the right. So really quickly, guys, so those are the 4 locations that the guard and the tackle have to be tied into. Again, the more plus that backer is, the quicker that guard's got to be. The less the further he is away, okay, from that play side gap in the stacker and the minus, the guard has time to work. Real quickly, guys, on the trail blocker. This blocker, as you'll see on film, he's going to use a pivot crossover footwork, and he's going to work across the plumb line. What we mean by the plumb line is the line of demarcation right down, okay, the middle of that down defender. We want to get our hat across that plumb line. So once the trail blockers cross the plumb line, we're going to work to fit an under strike, which is a scoop. We're going to square up and clamp strike the inside pad and lock them out, work square and finish off. Okay, but the post blocker allows the trail blocker to fit in by playing long. That's a key point. So we want to create separation so the trail player can overtake the down defender. So in a nutshell, guys, these are some of the coaching points that we're going to be talking about today. And we made the PowerPoint so you guys can go back and review exactly what these components are, how we're detailing it, and how you can apply it for your players. So the main coaching point, okay, to emphasize is assess the location, depth, and demeanor of the backer, win the first touch. That post-up blocker has to win the first touch. And we want to play long, okay, with fast hands and arms. You'll see that. You'll see that being coached. We want to beat the buckboard technique. We'll talk about the buckboard technique in just a second and show you how the defensive line's playing. And then we really want to focus on precision striking and timing from the ground up. And I do believe this, that you can strike in a square shoulder manner when you're striking and disrupting and softening the shoulder of the down lineman. The next thing, just you're focusing on the trigger aspect of the post-up blocker. So he's alert to the second level, and he has a launch angle that we'll talk about that's really specific to his second level to release to fit up on the backer. So again, we always talk about perfect angle to the second level, positional leverage on the overtakes, and explosive movement off the ball. Okay, so those are just some coaching points. Just gather and kind of digest as we go through this cut up and we talk about the various techniques of this combination. Okay, first off, let's talk about beating the buckboard. What's a buckboard? It's a two-handed strike that comes from the ground up, all right, from a defensive lineman. And this is just an example of how a defensive lineman starts in the D-line progression. So I believe you got to understand what the D-line is doing to defeat that block. I think it's critically important.
Years ago, my offensive line coach would come back from the Cool Clinic and from Coach McNally's offensive line retreat, which he used to have, and bring these techniques back that were really effective, things that we adopted wholly. And it was really before there was a focus on concussions and head impacts, especially on the offensive line. And so the benefit of these was as we started to use them, we saw less and less in terms of head injuries and impacts on the head because our players were learning to use their hands and play long. So it's impressive what Scott and Bill have been able to do in being one of the most effective run offenses in the NFL while having their unit have the least amount of head impacts and zero concussions. Scott truly is an innovator, and I love the system that he's put together here. He's going to fly through this. And again, I think if you could go to cool2022.coachesclinic.com, get the replay for this one. All of them were excellent, but I think you'll really see this along with the cut-ups where Scott goes through and explains these, but it's going to give you an idea of some things you can do to more effectively communicate with your offensive line and adapt some of the things he's done with his strike system. Here's Coach Peters.
Hey guys, we're going to get started here on the strike system. What I'm going to do here is I'm going to overview what the strike system is, kind of define the concept of the strikes themselves, our terminology that we use, and the codes. So I'm going to get into some one-on-one pass rush situations, some clips there so you guys can really see the details of the strikes because it's kind of a little bit harder to see on the game film, but we will watch the game film as well. And then we're going to get into probably the most important piece, which is the skill development component to get these guys to where they can actually execute these techniques on command, okay? So I'm going to go real fast with this, by the way. So just before we really, kind of dig into the clips, this is exciting because I think when you look at the strike system, it's really like O-line play, in my opinion, is maybe the most exciting martial art on the planet. That's how we kind of look at this. We want to train our guys as such. We want to give them the tools to win. And with that, we have a strike system that's helped us kind of expedite the program and really increase production and performance for players. So they're very clear on what they have to do. We do this from a numerical system. So it's a strategic, numerically coded sequential technique application of sets, strikes, and counters in pass protection, okay? It's designed to optimize sequence and placement of strikes based on scheme, situation, alignments, and the opponent we're facing. And also it reduces verbiage to maximize efficiency of communication in meetings, drills, and on the bench. So we can get things done quicker when we drill that way. And here's just a quick example, which I'll cover. You guys will get to see what these sequences look like as we get into the film. And again, you can go back and obviously check these slides again, because I'm going to go really quickly through them. Forward jump 34, FJ 34, that's the term. Hey, FJ 34, that means forward jump with an outside understrike to the sternum and an inside clamp, which is a strike to the deltoid. So we'd rather just say FJ 34 if we're in a one-on-one pass rush situation. I could tell a guard, or coach could tell a guard, hey, FJ 34, that's this type of set and strike we're going to use. Okay, I'm going to explain how these look. A pillar, okay, these are digit codes 1 and 2. Okay, a pillar is a long strike. Coach mentioned that before. We want the pillar to land long. We don't want any bend of the pillar. There's no bent pillars in any structural design because it'll break, right? So we want to make sure we're playing long. So a pillar is a long strike, and it's designed to impact the armpit handles to create shoulder disruption. The pillar lands at full extension. Additional length and strength is gained with subscapular extension through impact. When we use the pillar in pass pro, on angle sets and post sets, okay? The numerical codes for that is a 1, which is the outside number, okay? That's an outside pillar to the outside pec. So if we're shooting a 1, that means the left guard's using his left hand, okay? If we're shooting a 2, the left guard is using his inside hand. If we're the right guard, a 1 is the right hand and a 2 is the inside hand. So that hopefully makes sense. So here's the next strike, which is an understrike, okay? So an understrike is coded as a 3. A 3 is an understrike. And we put a scoop there, a scoop of ice cream, because this is a lifting strike or fit placed on the sternum with a bent elbow and the palm facing up. We want to scoop that under. We want to get lift. It works in tandem with the hip extension to control defenders by deflecting their force vertically to stop the bull rush. Okay, when are we going to use this? We use it all the time. Angle sets, jump sets, and any counters when we're dealing with like a refit, okay, when we're dealing with pressure. Under numerical codes, again, a 3 strike can be used by either hand. A 34 strike, okay, if we say 34 for the right guard, it's an outside under and an inside clamp, which we'll explain now. A clamp is a 4, a number 4, an outside strike or fit used to control a defender's lateral movement by controlling his inside or outside shoulder, depending on the situational objective. The clamp is applied to the pad covering the deltoid, and it can be used as a catch hand versus an inside move in pass pro. The numerical code is 4, and it can be used by either hand. A 1-4 is used by guards on angle sets with no center help. So if a guard has a 3 technique, he will use a 1-4 that's an outside pillar and an inside clamp. The clamp is a catch hand to prevent the inside cross face when we don't have help. So that's kind of how we're utilizing these strikes a little bit in terms of the scheme. Snatch is a 5. This is the last one we're going to share today. The snatch is all about securing handles as fast as possible. We talk about handles quite a bit. We want to make sure we're not just playing long, but we're securing a grip and something, grabbing, because that's important for us to be able to get to our counters quickly. This strike is used on forward jump sets, which is an FJ code. And the point of emphasis is to secure the handles as fast as humanly possible. A slight bend in the elbows enables the hands to grab cloth quicker. We're not trying to impact the guy. We're not trying to hit him. We're just trying to get our hands on him like we're shaking hands with the breastplate. We want to get this guy grabbed up before he can get 2 feet in the ground on our forward jumps. Our numerical code is a 5, and the 5 is the code for the snatch. A double snatch is a 55, which is used when there's inside sideboard help. So in other words, if the flow of the protection is going left and I'm the left guard and I've got a 3, I want to funnel that 3 back into the center. So I'm going to use a 55 handle. That means I'm throwing 2 snatches to either armpit, okay? A 5-4 might be utilized when the center is working away. Here's our strike man. This is a kind of the points of target and as well that coincide with the strike. So armpit strikes, we'll throw our 1 and 2 pillars and a snatch right there in the armpits. The chest plates and sternum, we're bringing our under there, okay? So you can see that we're coming underneath on either side or down the middle. Clamp points are 4. We're going to use clamps a lot, and that's right up the deltoid, as I pointed out. Here's our system codes, okay? So we could do everything in the basis of sets, strikes, and counters. So angle A, we guys are familiar. I'm not going to cover all these. Angle A, B, and C, these are angle sets, okay? The various degree angle sets. A FJ is a forward jump. RJ is a run jump. We'll use on run action protections. A P is a post. An S is a settle, which we'll have guards settle off on short looks versus like 3 down fronts when we're worried about pick stunts. And a U is an up kick, okay? A strike's 1, 2, pillar, 3 under, 4 clamp, 5 snatch. You guys got that figured out. And finally, counters. So we're working counters. We won't call out the counters because we're not sure what the counters will be, but we can anticipate they'll probably be one of these. We have other counters as well, but an under, a clog, a buckle, a vice, a fillet, a trap, a hop, a pull and ride, or a snap on a TE type stunt or inside stunts. Okay, so these are the counters that we're using. We like to drill all of these in conjunction, and I'll get into the drilling as we roll. Here's a sequence code examples. Here's some of them. This is going to look crazy. So you're going to have to come back and probably review this again, but I'm going to share just kind of conceptually what it is. And keep in mind, if you're out there and you're going, this is just too many things, you can pare it back. You can always pare it back. You can do, you don't have to do all of these different types of sets. and just keep it simple, right? Just most important. So A14 is an angle A set with an outside pillar, inside clamp, and a buckle. Buckle's a counter, okay? B13, hop, angle B, pillar, inside under, and a hop. If you go down the line, you can see forward jumps. These are all things that we do, and I'm going to show very specific examples. The last one there is an A143 hop. That's a 3-digit code for strikes, okay? So that's an angle A, outside pillar, inside clamp, outside under with a hop. And I'll show you, these will really clean themselves up as you get to look at them on our one-on-one pass rush.
So a lot there in a short amount of time, where Scott gave the overview of what they've put together in their strike system. Again, I feel he is really an innovator in terms of technique and thinking about different ways that you can use the hands to play long, to keep the head out of the game, and still be more effective in your blocking as you learn to use your hips and leverage. Scott's system can be found at tipofthespearfootball.com. I'll put the link to that in the show notes, as well as the link to the 2022 Cool Clinic. Again, you can find that at cool2022.coachesclinic.com. Follow me on Twitter at Coach K. Grabowski, and follow all we're doing at coachandcoordinator.com.